Hello, my name is Calvin, and I chose to dive deeper into microorganisms as we use microscopes and witness close ups of bacteria and plants that are usually invisible to the naked eye. Specifically, how, despite their size, they affect our climate and serve a purpose for the Earth. Now, our influence on Earth's atmosphere is greater than some may think. No matter how we word or view climate change, it's our choices that impact it and influence the degree of which it affects the Earth. Everyone knows photosynthetic organisms like plants, soil microbes, and phytoplankton consume carbon dioxide, known as CO2, and reduce its portions within the atmosphere. And yet we don't do everything in our power to preserve them or our own world. Now, we brought up microorganisms in class and even seen them through the microscopes, like I mentioned earlier, and realizing that beyond what we can see are other worlds. Looking into the lenses and watching them move around, you realize that even if we can't see it, there is life everywhere, and how these ecosystems still play a role that we rarely think about. Now, what what value does a microscopic world bring to us? Well, below our feet, invisible to our eyes, and within the unseeable microscopic world lays powerful allies that we take for granted, in the sense that no matter, even though they're so tiny and almost impossible to see, they are still present and still help us by making our atmosphere breathable. How? It's because they help regulate the climate by consuming over half, if not around half, of our planet's entire carbon dioxide portion through photosynthesis alone, and converting it into breathable oxygen for us mammals, humans, and wildlife alike. And below is a link for the references, or not reference. Now, despite how valuable and how much they help us, how we repay their contribute by continuing to produce more and more carbon dioxide faster than they can consume it all. And in return, this damages the atmosphere more and more, not only damaging and altering their homes, but ours as well. As if their homes become destroyed, so will ours, although just not as dramatically. Now, how exactly? Because, because with climate change, there is constant increase within the temperature, even though it's slow, it's consistent. And it also affects the nutrient supply within the water, along with the chemistry of it. By and how is that? By us dumping plastics, oils, toxic fluids, whatever waste that we just dump into the water, not thinking twice about where it's going to be going. Now, phantom planktons are part of the building blocks of the marine food web, as whenever they're eaten or die, they still retain some of the CO2 trapped within their bodies and carried it to the deep ocean through a process called biological carbon pump. Now, this is a unfortunately a blurry image of the process of biology carbon pump, or also known as the ocean carbon pump, which essentially illustrates how from the phantom plankton are then consumed by the zooplankton, which are then consumed by the smaller fishes and bacteria alike, and thus as like what plants are to carnivores, harmful are to carnivores. And whatever is left of the planktons fall down deeper into the ocean, and also known as marine snow. Now, what our actions are doing to the marine ecosystem are also affecting ours. pouring waste materials from power plants, factories, etc., doesn't just change the water's color, but its chemistry. Elements in our world have unique properties and traits, like how certain ones, like iron, may melt or turn into liquid at a different temperature than nitrogen. And how everything has a pre-built structure, which, which through Darwinism or evolution in general, our bodies or the environment adapt to the current conditions. Now, in climate change frequently alters multiple aspects of the world, and although life can adapt, it's usually a long process. And with climate change, it might be too fast, too rapid, to where there's not enough time for us to adapt, nor the environments themselves. Now, one of those ecosystems are kelp forests, which are often described as underwater cities, as a serve as a climate change mitigation. In a sense, kelp forests are dense underwater habitats made of large brown seaweeds which thrive when inside cold and nutrient-rich coastal waters. Now, these forests, just like the phantom plankton, absorb CO2 from surrounding seawater and converts it into biomass rapidly. And unfortunately, they're vulnerable to the same things as phantom planktons, which is the increase of water temperatures due to the rapid increase of carbon dioxide presence within our atmospheres. Now, kelp forests are sensitive to higher temperatures, which global warming does exactly. And this damages and reduces their ability to endure, and not only do we lose more CS2 absorbers as they die out more and more, but also it disrupts marine life that depends on them, harming other ecosystems as well, outside of just the kelp themselves. What do I mean by that? I mean that kelp forests don't just consume carbon dioxide, they also provide support, food supplies, and safe environments for certain marine lives, such as sea otters. Now, they are considered keystone species, which act as control for the sea urchin populations, keeping them from overglazing the kelp themselves, and thus keeping the kelp healthy and alive. Now, along with these sea otters, there's also other ones like sea lions, seals, fish, invertebrates, etc., that also provide their own benefits. And each one of them serves a purpose. They all are like a gear within the system. If one fails, it can disrupt other aspects, thus damaging the ecosystem and becoming unbalanced. And if one is lost, then others will suffer, including the kelp itself. Now, why should we help our kelp? There's some key facts about them. Kelp is used for shelter and feeding grounds for creatures such as seals and dolphins. Kelp beds also support crustaceans such as commercially important lobsters, and they are also the spawning grounds for many species of fish. Now, what happens if we let change continue and worsen? Well, if it continues, we will reach a point where the damage will become unreversible, and then countless catastrophic events will slowly begin to take place. One common example is sea level rising, as there are many coastal cities throughout the USA alone, such as Los Angeles, New York, San Francisco, and thus if sea level rises high enough, all of these cities will be destroyed. And not only that, all the marine life would be disrupted within the surrounding areas as well. And even even with that, the cities within deeper into the continents, like Africa, although they won't be hit directly by the sea levels, there already starts various stars food and water supplies will even worsen more as the quality within the soil begins to decrease and weather patterns become unpredictable. And environments that are already on the verge of being considered uninhabitable and too hostile for any form of life to survive in will reach a point where they are no longer a suitable place for any life and now become completely uninhabitable. Now, what can us individuals do? Alone ourselves, there's not much we can. We can recycle more, use more renewable resources, make sure we don't throw away any valuable waste that can be reused. But to really have an impact, we must gather together as communities and pressure not only states, but also the federal government to make more regulations or make new laws in any way to help secure the future of the earth. Some common examples would be to establish projects like community composting sites, near gardens, organizing local climate initiatives, and substituting fossil fuels for more solar and wind based powers. And below that is the link below, used for disinformation. And thus that includes my presentation.